Hello all! Today I continue with Kilroy's Key 3, New to Me, Napoleonic. Got my chest of keys here, and let's talk about Napoleonic. Now this one might be one of the tougher ones that I had to do this year, in that I acquired a few Napoleonic games. This has always been a sweet spot for me. I've been from a history perspective, the Civil War was one of the first things I really started studying and was fascinated by, the American Civil War. And then after that was probably Napoleonic. And after that was probably World War II. So did not follow the orderly progression on my military history. But so this is an area that I've always been fascinated about and probably have the most military or historic books about, is the Napoleonic era, and acquired several Napoleonic games, but unfortunately some of them I acquired late in the year, and kind of an occupational hazard for Napoleonic games, they're a little bit harder to get to the table. Some of these systems are relatively involved and sometimes complex, and so it's harder for me to get to the table. So I'm breaking my rule again, and I'm going to have some honorable mentions in this category, just because I acquired some Napoleonic games, but I haven't got them to the table. So they're honorable mention because I really haven't fully played them yet. I've just kind of tinkered around with them and haven't got a full play. One of them was the OSG introductory game, and I'll put a link to this, and I'll put a link to all these games in the description, but pick this one up. This is part of the library of Napoleonic games from OSG and a Kevin Zucker design. And this is a really interesting game in that it's more of an introductory game. It's a hypothetical battle. It's about that didn't happen, but could have happened. And it comes with the maps and comes with a lot of the player charts or the player aids that you need. However, you need to download some of the other charts in order to fully play the game. And it's really part of another game in the series, which I don't have. But I wasn't able to fully get this one to the table, but I do like this system, the Library of Napoleonic Battles. I really like this system, so that's why it's an honorable mention. And this is this system, the Library of Napoleonic Battles. Another system is La Bataille, and there's several rules in this system and it depends on which one you want to start with. Again, there's at least 3 or 4 different rule sets maybe to this system of La Bataille, and this one was part of the Against the Odds holiday sale, or Black Friday sale, or La Bataille sale. I think it called it the Bataille sale, in which if you ordered a certain number of games, then you would get this. And I'll put a link to my unboxing of those games. I haven't had a chance to get this one out, but I have played the La Bataille system. The reason it has a disc in here is you get all you need for the game, but you don't get the rules. And so you have to download the rules and maybe some of the charts off of the CD that comes with this. But this was the annual 2013 La Bataille Vaucham. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, so feel free to correct me. I'm used to it. And they found some extra parts to this annual, and so that's why they made this as a giveaway. So these are honorable mentions. 2 very interesting systems that are tactical to grand tactical in the Napoleonic world. But I did not, even though I acquired them in 2022. Was not able to get them to the table. So what did I get to the table in 2022? Well, as you can see here, Hougoumont. I got Hougoumont to the table a few times. This is part of the Folio series. It's a mini game series by Decision Games that is part of the Musket and Saber system. Again, I like systems. This is a small game from Decision Games. The other one that got to the table, I actually got both these to the table, was Napoleon 1815. This was sent to me from Shakos, which is a relatively new publisher. and they sent this to me, so I want to thank them for that. And then I went out and purchased Napoleon 1806 as well, and love both these games. And I'm not gonna do two separate entries for these, because even though they're different games, and there are some nuances to them, the presentation and the rules and the replayability are all relatively the same, and the value, so my point of view, so to speak, are very similar for both these games. So I'm gonna kind of bundle these together for my entry for my top three for Napoleonic New to Me in 2022. And the third one is kind of a dark horse that kind of came into the mix late. This is March of Progress, and it says it's a micro war game. This is really abstract, and arguably not a war game, but hey, it says war game on the box. I'm going to put it in this category. But those are the three that were new to me. Now, March of Progress is not solely a Napoleonic game. It has, but you got Napoleon right there on the cover there. But the Napoleonic Wars. It has several scenarios in it. So and one of them is the Napoleonic scenario. So that's so it barely slipped under the wire to come in. As I said, if one of those other two, the OSG game or the La Bataille game, if I had gotten it to the table and gotten a full game, then clearly one of those would have made it into the mix here. But I just had some other interest this year and didn't scratch my Napoleonic itch as much. So these are the three games. Let's talk about my point of view. Point of view, if you haven't been following, and I'll put a link to the introductory segment there, is presentation, operation, and value. Let's start with the presentation. And this series is, as you can tell by these three games, is probably going to be a runaway. But let's start with the presentation portion of the analysis here. And so that will be Napoleon 1815. Let's take a look at that. There's the map, and 1806 has a similar map. It's a point-to-point map. You're going to be playing cards as part of your operation to move your units, and then when you're in the same area, then there's a combat, and there's a unique combat system that is part of this, and there's a way to keep track of your kind of your fatigue and the sort. This is the 1815 set. It has simplified rules. We'll get to that in the operations set, but segment. But there's a quick start rules that come to it. But it has really, really stellar components, and I'll put a link to both 1806 and 1815 in my description below. But you have these player shields that you can keep track of your boards, so nobody knows kind of what your strength or your fatigue or anything that you have in there. And it has all the kind of a player aid as well, as far as moving and combat and what you need to know there. And you have that for each of the different factions that are in the game. And then again, this is 1815, so this is the Waterloo campaign. You also have a full set of rules in here. Well, this is the scenarios. Here's the rule book. But the components are just stellar. I mean, you have these really thick player boards. This is where you keep track of the strength of your different units and their fatigue. And depending on where that's at on these charts will affect your combat. And if you ever get fatigue up to the end here, then that unit is out of the game. These are represented by blocks that are on the board. We'll show those in a second. But again, you have these for each one of the different factions. And these, again, are just great components. Then you have the blocks. They give you these bags. There's really not much use in the game other than to hold your blocks. But so you've got the blocks here for each of the different leaders, and these will be on the board and moving them around. And then when they're activated or used, then you flip them over to show that you've used them for that turn. So there's blocks in each one of the different factions. These are the fatigue markers that you keep on the board. There's special dice for combat to show whether you have lose fatigue or have of hits or like elimination. However, you don't need to use the dice because the cards themselves serve a dual role resolving combat when you play them. So the cards are fine. They're not they're decent thickness. I mean, they're not really thin, but they're just kind of a standard card stock. There's not like a linen finish to them or anything like that. But there's 3 different types of cards depending on what time, whether you start at the beginning of the game, like in anticipation, or during the combat, or the like, when you can play these. So there's somewhat of a multi-effect. There's the amount that you use for movement. There's the event, depending on what part of the game it is, or phase of the game to play it, and then you have the combat result on there as well. So multi-use cards, and they're all, they're for each one of the different factions, and they're very nice. So, production value of this game is excellent. Oh, there's the cubes that you keep track of, like your mounted units and your infantry and the like as well. So as far as components are concerned, or production value, this is awesome. I mean, this would be good even if it wasn't compared to some of the other games in this category this year, but very, very high marks for presentation. As far as decision games, again, they come in this little folio, so you get a paper map. This is just dealing with the action around Hougoumont during Waterloo. So it's very focused in on that action. It's part of the musket and saber rules, so you get the standard musket and saber rules that are for this, and then you get the rules that are specific to Hougoumont, this scenario, and the counters, in which I've actually clipped these. I don't clip very many counters, but I actually clipped these because I'd gotten the counter clipper before I got this game. So not a lot of components here. You have to supply the die, for the combat rules, but there you have it. I mean, decent components. It's a small format game. These are relatively inexpensive. I mean, I think I picked this up for like $11 or something like that. I think they go upwards of 15 or so. Small format game that plays quickly and gives you a feel for that engagement, again, on a very, tactical level. The third game in this series that I'm comparing, and again, if you're making my top 3, that should be somewhat high praise. Although, in this case, there were some ones that I really wanted to get to the table and just didn't. But as far as March of Progress is concerned, it's kind of a card game where you're going to be keeping track of different areas where you're doing combat with kind of cubes and these little army markers, and you have these specialized dice as well. But this is the scenario that deals with Napoleon, Vive l'Empereur. And so you have your France, and then you have the special rules or scoring for that, and the like there. Then you have Austria, and then you have some minor states. You have the Italian states and the German states, and what you're attacking. Presentation is nice. These cards are very nice. This game, again, is somewhat of an abstract game. You've got cubes and little meeples and wooden die of different colors, and then you have these very nicely illustrated cards. But again, it's somewhat of an abstract game where they're really telling you some of the stuff you need to know on the cards themselves. So, so when it comes to presentation value, I think this one is going to take them all probably by storm in this case. And I'm probably going to go with Napoleon, either 1806 or 1815. There's others in this series. I think there's 1807, which I haven't picked up yet. But this Napoleon 1815 and or 1806 in my collection are going to get the 3 keys. Next is a little bit tough because they're I do like the crispness and cleanness of March of Progress, so I'm going to go with it with the 2 keys, and then Hougoumont will get the 1 key, although it is the more standard hex encounter type game. When it comes to rules, as I said before, there is a quick start rules that are part of the Napoleon series. They give you like a little quick start where you're not playing all the advanced rules, and it just tells you how to set up the game and get started right away. A lot of this game is based on the cards, using them for moving your units and then trying to get them in a position of combat. The Huguenot or decision games, Musket and Saber, are, as I said, there's a standard set of rules that are done in very much in decision games fashion, with some special rules that go with it. They're fine. If you're a diehard grognard, then this is probably more in line with what you're used to and how to play. The March of Progress, again, is a different set altogether, because it is, kind of it is an abstract game. The rules are not that complicated, but they were also not the easiest to kind of pick up as far as trying to put it all together, or what I was supposed to do in this. And once I figured it out, it wasn't that hard, but it did take a little bit of getting used to. So in this case, the 3 keys are going to go to Napoleon 1815. I'll probably go with, as far as the operation, again, we're looking at its point of view as presentation, operation, and value. Operation is rules and gameplay and how easy it plays. Huguenot was a little bit easier to play and figure out, because it was a little bit more standard set of rules. So I'm going to give it the 2, and I'm going to give March of Progress the 1. Now we come to value, the last part of the POV. Value is kind of the simulation value, but it's also the replayability. It's the fun factor. There's a lot of stuff that goes into the value proposition for these games. Napoleon 1815 and 1816 is dealing with this kind of the operational sense of 1815 of the Waterloo campaign, or the last 100 days, and for 1806. It's dealing with that operational period. There is, even though it's just dealing with a specific operation, there's still quite a bit of replayability there, and how the cards come up and the decisions you make allow for a certain sense of replayability. Huguenot is very, very focused and just dealing with just that aspect of the Battle of Waterloo, the specific Battle of Waterloo. And then March of Progress, this is a little unfair because there's a lot of scenarios in here, so there is a little bit more replayability than there is for Huguenot, although not all of them are the Napoleonic, right? Because there is other scenarios in there. But even the Napoleonic scenario you can play more often than probably not than maybe Huguenot. So in that case, I'm going to give the 3 keys to Napoleon 1815 and or 1806, whichever one you want to call it. I'm going to give 2 keys to March of Progress, and I'm going to give 1 key to Huguenot. So where do we roll out for the 3 keys for New2Me Napoleonic 2022? Well, I think this is kind of a runaway. Huguenot gets 1, 2, 3, 4 keys. March of Progress gets 1, 2, 3. Is that right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 keys for March of Progress. And this is the biggest gap I've had in one of these segments so far. Napoleon 1815 and or 1806. You take your pick. Gets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9 keys, leaving me with recommending Napoleon 1815 out of these 3. That is better represents my point of view. Love to know what your point of view is, especially if you've gotten any of those other games that I mentioned in honorable mention, or any other Napoleonic games that were new to you in 2022. Love to hear about them, what you think about them, or what you think about these, and where you might agree with me, or where I might be wrong, because I can't be wrong. And don't ask my wife, because I'm never right. Anyway, that's what I have for you today. Hope you all had a happy and safe travels and holidays, especially for the Christmas break and Hanukkah, or whatever you celebrate. I hope it was wonderful. Getting ready for the new year. I'm trying to get a few more of these before the new year comes in. Trying out this new segment, Kilroy's Key 3, new to me. once I get into 2023, this might be a little stale, but if I have to, I have to. I'll continue on. Anyway, thanks for stopping by. Love to know you stopped by. Drop some comments to let me know you stopped by. Hope you're doing well, and thank you so much. Have a good one. Thanks for watching.